On the line with us is Kevin Kamps, the radioactive waste specialist at beyondnuclear.org. Their Twitter handle is also Beyond Nuclear, as you know, makes sense. Kevin, welcome back to the program. Nuclear waste being buried in New Mexico. Tell me about this.
Oh, we've got a big fight on our hand. It would be the world's largest high-level radioactive waste dump. It's a company called Fulltech International. It's teamed up with some local pro-nukers called the Eddie Lee Energy Alliance, and they want to so-called temporarily store 173,000 metric tons of irradiated nuclear fuel in southeastern New Mexico. That's twice what exists in the United States right now.
Whoa. So would they be bringing radioactive waste from all over the country? I mean, what is that quantity of nuclear waste relative to all the... I know most nuclear power plants around the country have been storing waste for decades on site in these pools. How much total is out there versus how much they want to put in New Mexico?
We're approaching 90,000 metric tons of commercial irradiated nuclear fuel, and that's what they're proposing to take out there. And also the hottest category of low-level, so-called, which is called greater than Class C. It's highly radioactive. And our expert witnesses had to wonder, with such a big number that they're seeking a permit for, are they talking about foreign waste as well? Are they talking about U.S. military waste? So a lot of unanswered questions from a very shady company.
Wow. So why do you call the company shady?
Well, they have a bad habit of engaging in bribery, for one thing. I worked with a couple whistleblowers for the past couple decades. One of them has since passed, and they had the dirt on the quality assurance violations with these Holtec high-level radioactive waste containers. And the company CEO tried to bribe them into silence. They did not take the bribe and continued to blow the whistle. But he and the company were convicted or involved in a conviction of bribery down in Alabama at the Browns Ferry nuclear power plant, and then lied about it later to get a $260 million tax break in New Jersey. And they're in pretty serious hot water up there for that one.
Wow. So this nuclear waste facility that they're trying to build in New Mexico, is there a good chance that this will happen? And if so, how are they going to entomb this nuclear waste? Or are they going to try things like reprocessing it like the French do?
Yeah, reprocessing is very much on their to-do list. We have taken this case to the second highest court in the land, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, as has a grassroots national environmental coalition. We're soon to be joined by the Sierra Club. We even have an oil company as an ally because this dump threatens their oil and gas business out there. So the fight is on. There's a big July 9th public comment session by webinar and call-in. We're going to try to turn as many people out as we can. And the plan is just subgrade. It's these pits. They would drill 10,000 pits and lower these canisters down into it. And the truth is, this would probably be permanent because we don't have a repository. And that's actually Beyond Nuclear's legal case. They can't do this. It's illegal. The Department of Energy cannot take title, take ownership, take liability for these wastes unless there's a repository open in the country. And even DOE has admitted that can't happen until mid-century. So it's illegal what they're proposing, and the NRC has just been complicit in this illegal proposal.
So basically, they want to dig holes or drill holes in the ground and dump barrels of radioactive waste in those holes. What is that? What might that do to the water supply? Isn't most of New Mexico over a fairly large aquifer?
It is close to the Oglala, and actually, incredibly, there's a sibling dump in Texas. The two dumps proposed are only 39 miles apart, and that dump in Texas, called Interim Storage Partners Waste Control Specialists, is above the Oglala. So they are messing with the Oglala. The state of New Mexico has pointed out under the current administration, Michelle Lujan Grisham is governor, that yes, indeed, that New Mexico dump is threatening local water sources, and they don't like that too much because water is especially precious in a place like
So New Mexico is fighting this?
Oh, yes. The current administration is. The previous Republican governor thought it was a great idea. But the current Democratic governor and her entire administration, the entire U.S. congressional delegation, which is all Democrat, are fighting it at this point.
That's great. So meanwhile, we're talking with Kevin Kamps, the radioactive waste specialist with beyondnuclear.org. Kevin, I understand that, Trump, it was one of those, like, not even a one-day story. It was like a 2-hour story, given the insanity of the news cycle around Trump. I'm reminded of Milton Mayer's book, when he talked with Germans in 1950, and they said, we got used to being governed by surprise. Every day was a new horror in the news. It's like, oh, hello. But this little 2-hour story was that Trump wanted to bring back above ground nuclear tests, or perhaps below ground, but he wanted to start testing nukes again. What's the status of that? What's going on?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like you're saying, this is madness. The United States did its last full-scale nuclear weapons test in Nevada, and it was below ground in September of 1992. So this is a very provocative proposal that they're floating. It would very likely, if it went forward, lead to renewed nuclear weapons testing by other countries. I mean, China, Russia, North Korea, India, Pakistan. Very dangerous. And, it's not the first time that Trump and his people have hinted at this. Even before taking office, they kind of mentioned that, well, maybe we should blow up some nuclear weapons in Nevada. Nevada is going to fight it tooth and nail. They already are. The congressional delegation is introducing legislation to block that funding. They've got a good chance of doing so. On the House side, they've got Pelosi's ear. They've got the appropriations chair, Nita Lowey, the subcommittee chair, Marcy Kaptur. I don't think they're going to get it through this funding for nuclear weapons testing. They're not going to get it through the House of Representatives. It's going to be blocked by the Nevada delegation.
So in order for Trump to test nuclear weapons, he needs a specific congressional appropriation of funds for that purpose. Do I understand that correctly?
Well, under normal times, but look what he's done with the border wall, for example, moving money around like it's a slush fund against congressional will. So we'll see, how far it goes. But if he's doing this supposedly to drive the Russians and the Chinese to the negotiating table, it's just an insane way of doing it. And if he's doing it, if he thinks he's going to win Nevada in November doing this kind of thing, I think he's going to have a surprise.
I think he thinks it'll add to his image of tough guy. I just got the Trump coloring book, which the Trump campaign is sending out. And it's literally Donald Trump is a superhero, flying through the air with his fist out in front of him and looking all macho and stuff. And I mean, this is the image that his followers are constantly tweeting projections of him, his face on Rocky's body and all this kind of stuff. He seems to be addicted to this weird, phony idea of masculinity, and somehow nuclear weapons testing is tied up in that. Or do you think that I'm being too psychological about this, and it's really just the weapons industry, wants to do these tests, and they're offering to give Republicans some money to do it or something? I mean, what's driving this?
No, I think you're really onto something. I mean, I think of phrases like the Mad King or Caligula. There's a great book called The Firecracker Boys about nuclear weapons testing in the 1950s and 60s. It focused on Teller trying to blow up hydrogen bombs in Alaska, supposedly to build a new harbor and to mine coal.
Right.
Any excuse to blow up nuclear weapons. And yes, there are those making incredible amounts of money on it all. It's a major part of the nuclear weapons complex, the military-industrial complex, and it also, was our supposed ticket to superpower status. Nuclear weapons, nuclear power, we're going to tell the world what to do. They thought they'd have a monopoly, but the Soviet Union caught up within 4 years.